Good day, everyone. It's me, your channel sales and educational manager, Image Master, coming at you straight from DxO. This is a live webinar. We have the lovely and talented Allison, as always, backing us up, of course. Feel free to ask her any questions that you have. She'll be more than happy to attack them and give you a hard answer. And we have a special guest with you, a really good friend of mine, my brother from another mother, Frank Doorhof. Frank, are you there?
Yeah, Hector, I'm here.
Nice. This is going to be awesome. Okay, so once again, Frank, for those who are not familiar with who you are and for that person who lives on the moon, if you don't mind me asking, do you mind just telling us a little bit about yourself, what you do, and how you rock?
Well, I work with clay figures, and I make them like still motion. And yeah, maybe you've seen some of my work in Sesame Street. And no, I'm just kidding. My name is Frank Doorhof. I'm from the Netherlands. I do mostly fashion and celebrity photography, and I specialize in teaching workshops.
Nice. Frank, thank you so much once again for attending today's webinar. Frank's also another image master from DxO, and for those who are not familiar with DxO, at DxO we create image processing software for all demanding and serious photographers, and today we'll be working strictly out of FilmPack. Today's session is strictly going to be based off of creativity. Frank and I are actually going to explain to you how we use FilmPack to pretty much boost the creative process of image processing, to be able to achieve different types of looks and styles. And once again, this is extremely an exclusive webinar. Like, it's so exclusive, like I'm nervous here because we've never done anything like this before, and it's going to be great.
Oh, you don't even have to do it.
So pretty much Frank and I are actually going to take you through our exclusive, like, step-by-step processes on how we capture and how we post out our images. We're going to go over things like, you know, creating custom presets, snapshots, going over like the control panel, the advanced control panel and FilmPack, and pretty much how we capture and post out our images. This is pretty much going to be like a step-by-step preview of how we do our things. We do have exclusive custom presets that are going to be all available to our faithful FilmPack end users at the end of this webinar. But if there's anything left I have to say before we start beginning, Frank, I know you've been really busy lately. Like, you've been on the road teaching workshops. You have your new book that just recently came out that we're going to be talking about at the end of the webinar. But, I mean, other than that, like everyone else pretty much trying to settle down for the holidays, like, what else is Frank Doorhof up to? Like, I know, I mean, tell us, please. Like, everyone wants to know.
Oh, man. It's been a roller coaster ride, especially this year. We started the year with a Dutch book called The Magic of the Small Strobe, and I've been working with Scott Kelby and his team. It's an amazing team on the new book called Mastering the Model Shoot, which has just been released.
Yeah,
we've done an amazing amount of workshops this year, and of course Photoshop World. We recently went to Mexico. We just arrived back, and this is interview and webinar week, I believe.
Nice.
So, and tonight it's DxO, and we have something special for you guys, and I hope everything works. But
yeah,
if it works,
I know this is something that you and I have been discussing for a while and trying to game plan. So let's just hope that everything runs sweet. So for the most part, once again, everyone, thank you so much for attending this webinar. Once again, it's me, Hector Martinez. We have Frank Doorhof all the way from the Netherlands, and we have Allison backing us up in customer service as always. We're just going to jump right into FilmPack. There's different ways. Obviously, we know how to use FilmPack. We can use it as a standalone, or we can use it as a plugin. For me, I just so happen to be using it as a standalone application today. Knowing Frank and his workflow, most likely he's going to be working it out as a plugin. So that being said, we're actually just going to go and jump right into FilmPack, and I'm using it as a standalone. This is an image of my friend Rachel that I captured in the studio, and we were actually trying to go for like this whole, you know, this whole white and cream theme. So on this demonstration, what I'm going to actually show you is how to create one of my personal custom presets. And Frank, please feel free to critique on these images because your opinion means a lot to all of us here. Once again, people, we have the men exclusively to ourselves for about an hour and 25 minutes, so an hour and 30 minutes. Feel free to ask Frank questions. Feel free to ask Allison questions. And that being said, today we're actually going to teach you how to create what I like to call the blue dream. Okay. So ideally when we were getting into this image, you know, we were going for like this whole white and cream theme in the studio. So there was something more that I've obviously can apply to create this image. So don't get me wrong, this is what we were going for, but this is what sold me. And this is more of a technique that, you know, it's been going around with like the whole blue shadows, but I mostly got this idea because of the whole new like alternative processing that's going on and that everyone's talking about right now. So if there's a couple of tools that we're going to be discussing, Frank and I, and I'm pretty sure we're like at neck and neck when we're dealing with the same type of tools. For me personally, I like to fiddle around with the film rendering. I'll get into the film grain. I mean, my filters I just can't live without. Also keep in mind the software that you're seeing today is strictly being demonstrated out of the FilmPack Expert Edition. So this is not the Essentials Edition. Frank and I are both working out of the Expert Edition of FilmPack Expert. I like to work with my tonings, my creative vignettes, and one tool that I personally can't live without, which is the Creative Blur Vignette tool. So I'm actually just going to go to the default state of how this image was captured, and I'm actually going to show you how I created the blue dream. So we're actually just going to go all the way up on top and reset the image to default. So let's do that. So this is the image as it was captured. So in order for me to create the blue dream, the first thing that I was looking for was the foundation. And when I'm referring to the foundation, I like to refer to it as like the film rendering. So the film rendering that I chose was my all-time favorite, and this is one film that I was always a really big sucker for, was the T-Max 3200 film. It was one of those mixed emotion films. I remember shooting like a tremendous amount of like pro packs of this stuff when I was in school. So we're just going to go straight into that. So there goes my foundation. And the main reason why I like FilmPack so much is because we're actually benefiting off of the 4 renders of that individual film. You know, the color, the contrast, the saturation, and most importantly, the main reason why we use FilmPack, you know, traditional analog film grain. My next step was that I actually adjusted the film grain because I wanted to get one of those silky smooth black and white finishes. So I easily went into the film grain and I manipulated the intensity slider to get that really subtle, you know, nice smooth even blend. So I started off there. Most importantly, another tool, and I'm pretty sure Frank would agree with me. Hey Frank, just out of curiosity, how often are you using the filters out of FilmPack?
Well, it depends on the look I want. Sometimes I work a little bit differently. I don't like to change my images too much. Mm-hmm. But I will show that in a moment when I do the retouching. But I think the filters are just, I always use it as the clickety-click until you see what you like stuff. So I will just try it a little bit, play with it, and if I see something that I like, I will store it as a preset.
Exactly. Okay, cool. So for me, I went with this green individual filter to kind of make things pop up a little bit. And then I adjusted the density slider. From that point on, I just moved on to the Creative Blur Vignetting tool, which was actually a really new nifty tool that we implemented into FilmPack 4. So what I simply did was you can easily just select your set center point, put it where your main focus attention is going to be at, and then from there just slightly just start making your adjustments. Open up your roundness, and then we're simply just easily going to diffuse, start getting that even like kind of soft focus filters, soft lens effect. And then from there I just really just jumped into my advanced settings. The advanced settings, I would have to admit, this is where like all the magic happens. And I'm pretty sure this is also a section that Frank likes to jump into a lot. Frank, out of the settings, out of the advanced settings, which tool would you actually say that you like using the most? Is it like your channel mixer? Is it your tone curve?
Well, I like the channel mixer, but also the micro contrast and of course the channel mixer. But micro contrast is something that I also play with.
Yeah, I would have to admit I'm guilty as charged as well, because the micro contrast and the channel mixer is really unique. The tone curve is also another tool that you could use. I mean, it's a really advanced tool. I would really say there's no wrong or right way of using the tool. I would just say it's a lot of repetition and having experience with the tool in order to get that certain look that you're looking for. From here, I just pretty much boosted
A bit of cross-processing, that's cool.
Yeah, exactly.
Cross-processing look you can get from the tone curve.
And Frank, just out of curiosity, like how much of that like tone processing and things of that nature are you seeing over there on your side of the globe from the Netherlands?
I see it perfectly here. I can see it very sharp.
Okay, but no, what I'm saying is like how often are you seeing the technique used in the Netherlands, say in like magazines and things of that nature?
Oh, well, we all love to have the more vintage looks nowadays, so you see it a lot. It's something that is, well, I will explain that when I'm doing my part, but I strongly believe that in the old days you had a sensor, you had a film roll, and nowadays you have a sensor, and I would just like to change the colors just a little bit, but I will talk about that later.
Nice. Okay, cool. We're not going to try to get too much out of Frank because we really do have a nice demonstration on his end. So from this point on, what I really did was I just jumped into the advanced settings and boosted up my micro contrast. From there, I went into the tone curve. The tone curve, like I said, it's a really nifty tool because you can do a lot with it. And then what's really nice about FilmPack is that we gave you the availability of tapping into each channel. So I just independently tapped into my blue channel. And then from my blue channel, I just adjusted my tone curve just a bit, creating each individual point. And I'm going to just do that slightly. Let me reset that. You know, until you can really get that own unique look that you're looking for, I would just say repetition, repetition, repetition until you get that look that you're looking for. What's really nice as well, too, let's say if you're always in the mood of like taking like a reference point, always rely on your new snapshot window. The snapshot window, I would have to say, is really nifty. I mean, there was a whole bunch of times where I used to write all the values like on a piece of paper and stuff like that. But now you can easily just go up to the upper toolbar and create like a little reference point for your snapshot. And you pretty much have like the recipe right there waiting for you on the side. From that point, I just went directly into the channel mixer. And I made a couple of fine-tune adjustments. So what I did was I adjusted my reds, my yellows, and I just started working down the ladder, creating that really eccentric, unique look until I got what I was looking for. And from that point on, that's pretty much how the Blue Dream was created. If there was one thing I really like about FilmPack, there's really no wrong or right way of using FilmPack. It's just letting your creativity take over and just, you know, just explore. But we're actually just going to have fun. And I'm actually just going to show you some of the custom presets that I've created that are going to be available. Frank's presets are already available on our Facebook page, and this man did not hold back. He gave us the whole recipe. I mean, these are not light versions of his presets. These are full-blown presets that you're receiving today. You know, from this point on, you know, there's the cranberry look that I created. And we're going to get into that look. But for the most part, I'm actually just going to give this one last demonstration, and I really want to switch over the mic to Frank because Frank needs a little bit more time than I do because we actually set up something really special for everyone today. So pretty much what I'm going to do right now is I'm actually just going to show you my custom preset called the cranberry look. And the custom presets can easily be created. I mean, there's actually 3 ways in FilmPack you can create custom presets. You can easily, you know, well, let's go into the cranberry look. Okay, so there goes cranberry. There's 3 ways that you can create a custom preset. You can actually go into your control panels where you can hit your little tab, and then you can name your preset as so. You can actually click on the image display window and create a preset from your current settings. That's another way. or you can actually go into your custom presets folder. This is where you save all the good stuff, and obviously, as you can see, I have a couple of Frank's presets already installed in the machine. But you can also just go into your custom presets, and you could just simply select, add to custom preset, and that's another way of doing it. So literally, there's 3 different ways of creating custom presets in FilmPack. But the cranberry preset was just a mixture of everything. We have another preset that I like to call fader, and these are all different type of presets that were created using these major tools. As far as the creative vignettes, the creative vignetting, there's 2 ways of creating vignetting. You can go with the light vignette, or you can go with like a dark edge vignette. Me personally, I'm more about dark vignettes. But for now, what we're actually going to do is we're actually just going to pass the mic over to Frank. So, Frank, are you ready to catch the ball real quick?
Oh, yeah, I am ready.
All right, so let's let.
Are you going to throw the ball all the way from over there?
I'm going to throw it all the way from the U.S. to the Netherlands. So let's see if you can catch this long shot. Okay, guys, so just hold on tight. So we're making Frank the presenter right now. And Frank, whenever you get a chance, if you could just hit your recording button. Okay, we're good to go. And this is what we've been in stored for everyone. This is actually live, everyone, all the way from the Netherlands.
Can you see my screen?
Yep, I can see you. I can see you, Frank. Everything's coming in live and clear.
Okay, then I'm going to move myself a little bit more towards the camera.
Okay.
Because a lot of the webinars, guys, are just talk and showing stuff on a screen.
That's right.
When I want to do something, I want to do it a little bit differently.
Exactly.
Now, we all know about using Photoshop. We all know about using Lightroom. And normally you will see the pictures coming in. Now, one of the things that the problem is with those pictures is they were already shot. And how were they shot? Well, you don't know that, right? Because they're already on the hard drive of the presenter. So I thought, what would be really, really cool is don't just talk an hour about Lightroom, Photoshop, DxO FilmPack, although I could fill 2 hours about DxO, but let's just first show you how we take the pictures and give you some tips about lighting, give you some tips about coaching the model, and most of all, give you some really cool shots. And after that, I will retouch the images so you really see the whole process from A to Z, from the photoshoot to the retouching and even the selection. And of course we need a model. Now we have like 20 sitting here in the studio, and I'm just going to look around, and I'm going to go like you maybe, or you. Yeah, you. Can you come forward, please? Of course we only have one model here. So here we go. Hello, and your name is?
Jantina.
Jantina, and she's a really Dutch model, so she pronounces it as Jantina. So, and
hi,
we never worked
Jantina.
before, right?
How you doing?
Hello. Fine.
He's not there. He's over there.
Yes.
Yeah. So, and this is no joke. Jantina and I never worked together. Now, why did I do that? Very simple. I wanted to show you guys that even with just somebody you never ever worked with before, you can get a great shot. Now, the first thing I've set up is a large 1.50 meter octa. And maybe you can switch the camera back to the whole studio view.
No, we can see the octa right from where you're at.
Oh, but we have a better camera point. How about this?
There you go. Perfect.
So you have different cameras set up. Okay, so this is the 1.5 meter octa. Now, the fun part about this one is it's an indirect light source. The not so fun part about it is it's a big light source. Now, one of the things that you really see in workshops nowadays and also in photography is they really like the flat light source. And why? Well, it's simple. You can very simply take a shot and it's always right, right? Yeah. So what we like to do in a moment is first show you how a really flat light looks, and then we're going to switch over to some more contrast, and I call it deep contrast looks. But first, let's start out. So, Jantina, can you stand against the wall, please? Now, one of the fun parts also is a lot of photographers in their studios will actually work with seamless backgrounds, like paper. If you look very closely, you can actually see that we're using painted walls. The reason for this is very simple. I want something unique in my photos. Now, you can use seamless paper, but then you have like different colors, and it's not boring, but it's standard. if you have your painted walls or, for example, the luster light backgrounds, those are really cool, you can really get something unique. Now, let's set up the light. And Hector, you can still hear me, right?
Yeah, I hear you loud and clear, Frank.
Cool, because we're streaming via satellite, and I'm always a little bit nervous when we do that.
Yeah, I hear you. But we have the backup plan in game, right?
Yeah, we have the backup plan as soon as it doesn't work.
Okay,
so
cool.
Now, this is a light meter. Now, some people will go like, oh my, a light meter. We don't need stuff like that. Well, you don't. So, now I'm just kidding. What you can do with a light meter is very simple. You just speed up your workflow. I don't say that if you don't use a light meter, you're stupid or you can't make a shot. It just speeds up your workflow, because look at this. I can now aim it under the chin of the model towards my light source, let the strobe go off, and I see 11.8, meaning I'm almost at f16. Now I click 2 times, and I will actually be on f16. And I can't go higher, so I have to shoot on f14. So I'm going to grab my camera, set everything up, and show you the setup with flat light. So one moment, I'm now going to walk towards my camera. And then we're going to take the first shot. Okay. Here we go. So, Jantina, are you ready? Are you nervous? No. No? Oh, she's lying. Just relax against the wall. Just stand a little bit and tilt your head just a little bit like this. Very cool. Chin up just a little bit. Very nice. And now you can see the image already coming in Lightroom. And the first thing you will see is it's a very, very flat light. It's a light quality that is okay if you want flat light. Actually, it's one of the best light qualities you can get from a flat light source, because again, it's indirect. Now let's make it a little bit more interesting. We're going to show a little bit more of the background. So I'm going to move a little bit more here. Just relax, chin up a little bit. Put your arms on your side. Very nice.
Everyone, just keep in mind, while Frank's doing this, what he's doing is he's tethering directly into Lightroom, and then he's going to be utilizing FilmPack as a plugin. You know, this is just so much of a faster way of working, and I mean, pretty much this is the way that every working professional should be working.
Shooting tethered is one of the best things, Hector, because you can actually directly see what you're doing. So now I've taken some shots with the flat lighting setup, and it's okay. Let's move a little bit here. Can you look a little bit down? No, you say yes. Look down. Very cool. Eyes towards the light. Very nice. Wow. Okay, nice. But again, this is the flat light source, and there's nothing wrong with it. It's almost a beauty light. But is it interesting? Well, some people will say yes. I say we can do better. So let's take another light source, and in this case I'm going to use the I'm going to use Beauty Dish with Grid from Allen. So I'm going to first disconnect this one. There we go, lights off. And we're going to change very quickly for a different light source. So one moment. That's the only disadvantage when changing light sources, you have to wait a little bit. There we go. Okay. And here we have the Beauty Dish. Now, the first thing you will notice when you look at the Beauty Dish, it's actually also some sort of indirect light source, because you're actually shooting into a bowl. And normally, you shoot into a deflector, which directs the light back into the bowl and then to the model. I removed the deflector and I put in a grid. Now, why did I put in a grid? Because I want a little bit more direction of my light. So let's turn on the light and you will immediately see a difference.
So Frank, just out of curiosity, for like the people at home, how often would you say that you're using like a Beauty Dish, you know, out of your workflow? Like let's just say this. Let's just say if I had to be your worst enemy right now and say you had one light shaping tool to pick on this shoot, which tool you're taking? One.
I think a strip light with grid. If I only can choose one, it's strip light with grid.
Nice.
Yeah.
Good choice.
But of course, I can't choose one. Because I love them all so dearly.
I know.
Okay, I'm gonna grab the I'm gonna grab the meter very quickly. and we're going to remeter. Now you can already see that it's a totally different light setup. And again, look how quick it goes. You just press the shutter, you press the light meter. F32.3, that's a little bit on the high side. So 1, 2, 3 would be F32. So we're going down a lot. There we go.
And just another question for like the people at home, Frank. Usually when you're doing this type of setup, when you're doing this type of segment, what f-stop are you looking for? Like, what's that sweet number that makes Frank happy? Is it F11? Is it F9?
It depends. It depends on the look I want. If I really want that shallow depth of field, I will go to F4. If I shoot medium format, I will go to 5.6. If I want, like now, if I want to show the micro contrast in a moment, that's when I go to F11, F16. But it also depends on the lens you use. If you shoot a wide angle, 5.6 gives you a nice deep depth of field. If you shoot a 200 mm like I'm shooting now, 5.6 will give me hardly any depth of field. So I have to go to F11 or F16. So a lot of people ask me those questions. What's your perfect lens? What's your perfect aperture? There is no perfect lens or perfect aperture. No, it doesn't exist. It depends on the look you want. So now I'm going to set it on F16. And by the way, for the people who are wondering what kind of camera is Frank using, because it's a really small one, it's the new Sony A7R. And we've been shooting for it for about a month now. I believe it's recently been released. And this is one freaking awesome camera. It's 36 megapixels, it's really fast, and you can put a converter on it so you can use all your A-mount lenses or Minolta. And you can use Leica Air glass on it, M glass. It's an amazing camera, so check it out.
Awesome.
So now I'm using this 70 to 200. So let's see how this looks.
Also, keep in mind, everyone at home, if you're always interested in checking out to see what type of hardware is, doing the latest and greatest, you might want to check our website out, which is DxOMark.com. That's where we're posting all our laboratory results for hardware that we evaluate on a day-to-day basis. So once again, that's DxOMark, like the name, MARK.com. Whenever you want to see how your hardware is holding up, just feel free to pay that site a visit.
And the Sony came out like one of the best, right?
That is correct. I would have to say Sony does an extremely great job at what they do in creating sensors. So if you really want to actually see the review, the laboratory results for that particular piece of hardware that Frank's using, just feel free to go to our website, DxOMark.com, and we'll let you know everything that it is that you need to know about the unit.
And you won't see it here underneath the screen.
No, you won't.
Put it in there.
We haven't. Yeah, we haven't gotten that far yet, but we'll get there.
Oh, we will next time. We'll do that. Okay, now you can see that there's already much more light fall off in the screen, right? Now, some people will say, Frank, if you shoot a portrait, why don't you shoot a portrait in portrait mode? Well, I will show you. So first I will now do a portrait mode, because this is how you normally shoot portraits, right? In the portrait mode, because that's why it's called the portrait mode. Now, I actually don't like it, because now the model fills up the whole screen. And what I like to use is something called negative space. I like to have a lot of room on the sides, because then I can also see my light fall off. And if you have a light fall off, that's actually cool. So I'm always shooting my models most of the time in landscape mode. And I'm now going to ask my model to play a little bit with her hair and her chain. A necklace, sorry. Really cool. And you're noticing that I'm shooting a little bit faster now, or a little bit low. So I'm just having fun with my model.
Keep in mind, folks, that Frank's using like a dedicated strobe. This is not something that me or Frank would probably highly recommend using like a dedicated like strobe that you would attach to your camera. The reason why he's capable of moving this fast is he's in the studio working right now.
Yeah, I don't have a strobe on my camera. This is a Skyport. It's a remote control. So what I'm actually love to do is, also when I'm using small strobe, is get the strobe off camera, because that gives you the nicest look. Now, we all shoot from one position, right? And you see that in a lot of studios. You will see one part on the floor, and it's totally worn out. That's where the photographer stands. What I like to do is, I like to do it a little bit differently. I like to move around my model. Or, as they say in or was it Madagascar? You like to move it, right? And I don't want to move the light. Now I won't sing, Hector. We only do that at Photoshop World. Guys, you really don't want to miss Hector singing. I kid you not. It's hilarious. He even struggled a crocodile once with me.
I did.
It was
just to defend
it was
him.
a stone one, by the way. We have to tell that. Not stoned, but from stone. I don't know if Hector was anyway near, but okay, cool. Anyway. So you can move around. Now let's say that I move around to here. I will actually get a little bit flatter light. Can you move your hands to your face a little bit? Both hands. Really nice. Close your eyes and chin up. Chin up. Very nice. Okay, and hold your hands like this. That's nice. And now we have flat light again. And flat light is okay, but it's also a little bit boring because flat light again, it's easy. So let's try to create something I call deep contrast. And for that I'm going to actually move here. And I hope my cable holds, but it holds. Can you look that way, Antina? Very nice. Okay, this is cool. Chin up just a little bit. Very nice.
So folks, keep in mind while he's working, he's also directing his model. He's he's building a relationship right now.
Oh yeah, we're building a relationship, but my wife is here, Hector, so watch out. Don't laugh, Jantina. Keep serious, keep serious. I'm just teasing my model now a little bit. Very cool. So by moving around your model, you actually create different looks. You create like a painting effect. Now, light is something you can manipulate. A lot of people say light can be manipulated. Light is there. That's true. But every light source can be manipulated, even the sun. You can use diffusers, you can use reflectors. The fun part, however, is with the sun, you can also move around. Now, a lot of photographers will stay in that one position, also outside don't. Start moving around your model, and you will get some creative stuff. Now, the light is now set up like you would normally expect it to be set up, like on a 45-degree angle. But when I move around, it's not 45-degree angle anymore, but it's pretty standard. So let's move the light really close. And this is fun for the guys who have a small studio. Now, even at the moment, I don't use a lot of space, because if you look very closely, my model is actually against the wall, and the light is maybe, what should it be, 50 centimeters away from her. So we're actually in a very, very confined small space. And we're going to make it even smaller. Let's say you have a studio the size of your bathroom. And you can make a picture there, right? I'm going to show you how. Although this lens and my bathroom, I don't know. But we're going to try it anyway.
So Frank,
move the light.
Usually people want to know in a situation like this, like what type of mode is ideal to shoot in, and then usually I highly recommend, you know, if I'm me personally, I want to drive the bus. I don't want to sit in the back of the bus, so I'm going to throw my camera right into a manual mode. From manual mode, you have the capability of adjusting your shutter speed and your f-stop manually. And for those who are wondering what mode, you know, Frank's shooting in, it's definitely a manual mode. You know, the P on your camera does not definitely stand for professional. You want to jump off of those auto settings.
Stands for?
What does it stand for, Frank? What does the P on the camera stand for?
I kid you not. It's panic.
Panic, exactly.
I actually wanted to say something else, but I can't say that online because then people start trying it out, and if it doesn't work, it's my fault. But put it on P and think about something, and the clothes will fall. No, I'm just kidding. Anyway, so it's panic mode. Now, of course, I'm shooting manual. And why do I shoot manual? Because you can shoot AV mode. If I would shoot AV mode or aperture priority mode at this moment, it will actually meter the available light. The available light is the modeling light. As soon as I would press the shutter, the strobe will go off, and I will go like, that's bright. And I will have an image that's totally white. If I'm on manual mode, I will actually set it on the so-called X sync speed. The X sync speed for most cameras is between 125th and 1/200. Don't confuse this, by the way, by the sync speed from your system strobes, because those are often a little bit higher. And system strobes are those strobes you put on your camera. For example, with Canon, the RT600 or the SB910s from Nikon. Those are actually always a little bit higher, like 1/250th. What happens after 1/250th? At that time, it will go into hypersync or high-speed sync. But that's a little bit too much information for now. With studio strobes, we actually have a trigger on our camera, and it's a dumb strobe. The only thing the trigger does is call to the strobe, hey guy, wake up, strobe. And it will strobe on the setting you set it on. That's why we use a light meter. We actually meter the light, and if I want to go to f11, I will actually set my strobe on f11 and take the shot on manual f11. So you have to shoot manual when shooting studio strobes. So I now change the light, and the fun part about this setup is, if you look really closely, it's almost against the wall. It's really close to the wall, and it's aimed down. Now the fun part is, what I like to do in a photograph is tell a story. And with this light setup, I can actually tell a story, because now I can say to my model, okay, let's do something like a praying mode, because he's looking up into the light. And the light fall off is very, very quick because the light is close. So let's take a shot. It's f16.1. I will go one click down. So now I'm on f16.
So
and
Frank,
again, normally,
just to answer a quick question, when Frank's referring that he's going one click down or one click up, what he's doing is he's adjusting the power on his strobe, ticking it down, because I'm not there to actually bring it down for him, so it's just a nice convenient way of him adjusting his pack from a distance.
Yeah, you didn't want to fly in, brother, so I have to do it all myself.
Sorry.
Thank you very much. Now you buy dinner next time.
I got you.
Okay, Jantina, can you look up and do like a praying mode like this, and close your eyes like this? Praying. Yes. There we go. Okay, we'll focus. There we go. 1, 2, and there it goes.
You know, if there's one thing that's really interesting, it's always to see how different working professionals are using our products. You know, and it's really nice just in a convenient way if you think about it. You know, he's plugged in right into Lightroom tethering, and then he's just going to drive FilmPack out of his host application as a plugin. I mean, it's just a really post-productive way of working.
Yeah, I can even put a profile on, but at the moment I don't. I just shoot the images, and I'll just see what happens.
Yeah.
Now, one of the most asked questions about light for us is actually, how does light behave? What does light do? Well, the closer you get to your light source as a model, actually the more quick the light will fall off. So you get a quick light fall off, meaning you will go very quickly to dark. The further you put your light away, the less quicker the light will fall off. So if you have two models standing next to each other and you shoot something, well, you put your light a little bit further away. If you have one model and you want that really deep contrast look, you put your lights very close. Now, Hector was with me in a workshop I did in New Jersey, and we have a video for that out called Live in New Jersey, where I actually shot two models. I think it was 1.5 meters away from each other, and I light them both with one strip, and it was only 1 to 2/10 of an f-stop difference. And that's something called feathering, and that's the last thing I want to show you with this light source. So feathering. Now, what is feathering? Feathering is one of the most powerful tools you can get in photography. Normally light will have a hotspot, meaning the model is in the hotspot, and that's the brightest light, right? But it's also the most harsher light. Now, if you move your light away from your model, you're actually going to start the sides of the light. You're going to move it like away from the model. And Annelie, can you please give me the strip light? And we're going to change light sources one more time, especially for you guys. Okay. Oh, almost a strip light in my face. Also cool.
Yeah, it's a part of the job.
Ah, yeah, man. I love strip lights in my face. It's perfect. Okay, there we go. Gonna aim it a little bit more up. And put the power in.
So right now, while Frank's just organizing his setup, you know, just feel free to ask any questions in the chat box, and we'll try to answer them as we go along. But for the most part, it's really interesting to see like a working pro like do what he do best, and it's really nice. Thank you so much, Frank, for helping us out with this.
Yeah. No, don't worry. Now, the first thing you can see is if I aim it straight at my model, the background is also lit, right? Now, if I start feathering, I can actually make that only my model is lit. Now, can you stand against the wall with both shoulders against the wall? Perfect. Chin down just a little bit. And I actually only want her face to be just a little bit lit. And I'm actually now feathering my light. And because I use a light meter, I can still meter, and I will get 11.6. So go down to F11. If I meter here, it's now F11, but if I meter here, it's actually almost F16. So I'm really, really feathering my light away. So let's go to F11, set up the camera. Okay, and I'll look a little bit down.
Folks, keep in mind, just as a reminder, all the presets that Frank and I are creating today will be available to you at the end of this webinar. You can currently download Frank's presets off of our Facebook page, and the other presets you will see posted up hopefully within another 24, 48 hour timely manner.
Can you look up and close your eyes? And again, do that with your hands around your necklace. Straight. Both, without a cross. Yes, and then hold your necklace, like play with it a little bit. That's cool. Very nice. That's nice.
As I was saying before, Frank's shooting in the manual mode, and he's metering up. I would have to say, if I've worked with Frank a couple of times, and if there's two ways that I've usually seen him meter up, he's either using his dome, or one other of his specialties is to use his 1% spot metering tool that's integrated into his light meter. And Frank, just out of curiosity, if you don't mind me asking, out of the two, when it comes to your dome or your 1% spot meter, which one do you find yourself using the most, or is it more of like, hey, is it that time of day, or is it that type of mood type of deal you're working with?
No, it's like eating steak and vegetables. You have to
Oh, that's always good.
Yeah. Now, there are two different kinds of metering. The first kind of metering is incident meter reading. You actually meter the light hitting the model. Now, the light hitting the model, that's the light you set your strobe for. Now, there's a lot of confusion about this, because in some books it said you always should meter towards the camera, right? Now, I don't agree with this, and I will show you why. We saw the images coming in, right? And they're properly lit. They're perfect. Now, if I meter towards my light source, I get the correct meter reading, F11. Now I'm going to meter towards my camera. My camera is here. Oops, now I get F5.6. Now if you get F5.6 and I would shoot on F5.6, my model would be way too bright. And this proves that you always have to shoot towards the light source. Except, let's say you're outside. The sun is behind your model. And you want the face of the model to be correct. What do? At that point you point towards the camera. Because now you're actually also metering the ambient light. So let's say the light is behind my model like here, and I'm going to shoot from there, so from the opposite direction, and I want my light to be correct. Now I meter towards my camera, and I would get 4.05. If I would now shoot on 4.05, and I already disconnected the camera, but I will see if I can get it up and working again. And it works, that's great. So now we'll go to 4.05. There we go. Very nice. Can you look at me? There we go. Now what you will actually see is that the side of her head is totally blown out because I metered towards the camera. However, the part of her face where I metered is actually correct, around her chin. This is how an incident meter reading works. So you don't have to point towards the light source per se, but you have to point towards the light source if you want that part correct, so most of the studio work. Now the reflective meter is something else. Reflective meter reading you actually do from camera position on the same angle as under you shoot. So if you shoot up, you meter up. You turn the dial on your meter and you look through and you take a meter reading. Now what it tells you is this is 18% gray. So if you now put your camera on this setting, it will give you 18% gray. Now, I don't know about models that are 18% gray. I never saw one. And the problem is all models are like 50 shades of gray. They're 18% gray, they're 20% gray, or whatever kind of gray. The fun part about 18% gray is you can start calculating. Let's say I want a background and I want it totally white. Now I will meter it with a reflective spot metering, get 18% gray, and add approximately 2.5 and 3 stops. And it will blow out completely without getting too much light back on the model. If I want it completely black, I will actually go 4.5 stops down. And that's the power of the reflective meter reading. So reflective, you can actually see, is there still detail in the black? So if you want an area that has detail, and let's say you're an F11, and your meter says it's 1.4, you know that part is so black there will be no detail, because F16, 11, 8, 5.6, 4, 2.8. At 2.8, all detail will be gone. So that area that you meter should be higher than 2.8. And then you know there's still detail. So I can't say I will use only the dome or reflective. They both have their uses. If I have to have one meter only, then I have to have a meter that has both, of course, but let's say that's not possible. Then I would choose the meter with the dome, because then I know that my model is always correct. And that's for me the most important thing. The reflective meter reading I only do for contrast metering or white or black backgrounds. So we took some shots. How do you, like if I go into Photoshop and Lightroom to show you my retouching, Hector?
Yeah, please, Frank. That's the main thing. We all want to know how everyone's using FilmPack at home. So obviously, as we already know, Frank was tethering this photo shoot directly into his unit. So he was plugging it, driving it directly into Lightroom using tethering. He wasn't using Wi-Fi. He was tethered directly into his computer. And now he's about to open his image and drive FilmPack out of his host application, which would be Lightroom in this situation. So Frank, if you don't mind, just letting us inside your private space and seeing how you work at home. I mean, this is what it's all about. And keep in mind, folks, there's only one company right now that's delivering this, and that's at DxO.com. I mean, DxO. I mean, we're the only ones. Frank and I have been working on this for some time right now to try to give back something. And right around the, I guess you can consider the holiday season, this is our way of saying, happy holidays and happy New Year.
Ho, ho, ho.
And we really do hope that you enjoy this webinar, because this is real. This is live. Frank, once again, thank you so much.
Oh, yeah, thank you so very much for having me. I had nothing else to do or play Battlefield 4, so well,
that is true.
I thought this was more fun.
Yeah, we'll do that later.
I'll see you online, buddy. So let's see, the first thing we always do is select the images. Now, I'm very brutal with this. If I don't like something like this image, it has potential. But even FilmPack probably can rescue this. I
like that. That's nice.
Yeah, so we'll delete that one. Now this is a little bit better, but it's still a little bit, I don't know. Now so this Frank, is an image where Anouk actually is in.
If you don't mind me asking, the main reason why you would get rid of the images is because, one, there's no need, there's no use for them, and two, most importantly, you don't want to bombard your hard drive with useless space, useless information that you're never going to use. Am I correct?
Correct. And hard drives are very, very simple. They are cheap, but they're not free. And actually, the drive spaces you put them in, like I have 2 Adonic towers and I can house 15 hard drives. If I would save everything I shoot, I would probably use up 1 space each year for only my images and 1 space for video. And then it would build up way too fast. So that's why I delete a lot of the images. And let's be honest, I'm not going to use the black ones. Now this one I don't want to delete because Anouk is in there and that's against my beliefs. So I don't delete Anouk. Now the first thing I always look in an image, is it okay? Now in this case it's a nice image, but I'm not going to retouch it. Same for this one, same for this one, same for this one. This one is okay. This one is a little bit too much. This one is okay. No. This one is nice. This one is actually a little bit better. Don't like that one. And I'm going really fast through my images. Now why do I really go fast through my images? An image actually should jump out at you from the first second. If it doesn't jump out the first second, just delete it because you're not going to use it anyway. Now this was the part where I played with my model. I was just having fun with her. That actually means that most of those images will be deleted. And why?
Dancing.
Very simple. It's just to lose. What?
She's dancing.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, baby.
She's dancing.
It's her avatar.
There you go.
Oh, we have way too much fun. Okay, now here, she actually has her hair in front of her face, and I actually like it a little bit. This one I don't like. This one is okay. This one is better. You see the subtle difference in her mouth?
Yeah.
And this one I really like. This one I don't. It's very subtle sometimes. It's okay.
Yeah, but you would have to say, Frank, something like that would actually make or break the image. Something as small, as minute as like the move of the mouth or the slight tilt of the head. Of course, you know, it's all about body language and posture and not taking a picture, but necessarily creating an image.
Yeah, and what you can see now, she's loosening it up just a little bit, so now I get a little bit better images. This one I can delete. Okay, now the first thing, library, and what I will do is just delete all the images I don't like, delete rejected images. Now some models will freak out because they say, oh my God, you deleted 35 images. Yeah, it isn't your soul I'm deleting, don't worry. So it's just the bad images. Now I'm going through it again, and I'm going to select the images I really like. Now in this case, I actually like this one, so I'll give it a P. I'm going to go a little bit through. I really like this one. This one is pretty cool. Oh, that one I like even more. So
Frank, considering the fact that you use different types of host application, people want to know, you know, they're really curious to know, like, hey, by any chance, does Frank use DxO Optics Pro, which is our own image processing raw converter? And I'd like to, and I've told people, you know, when Frank has the time, you know, he uses it all the time, but when he's on a job that's so demanding that he needs that quick turnaround where it's just like grab the information one day and hand it off the next, he'll use something like Lightroom. So just out of curiosity, Frank, like what's your take on like Optics Pro and, you know, how does it make Frank feel?
Yeah, Optic Pro is really cool. The only thing missing, and we talked about it before, is the incorporation of the color checkers. That's it.
Yep.
But that's only important when I want color accuracy for the whole set. If I only need color balance and I have time, I will use DxO FilmPack because it kicks ass in Lightroom. Lightroom is okay, but DxO Optics really gets the best out of your images. Now, you have to distinguish two things, and I have discussions with this with a lot of people, and I'm going to show you that in a moment, by the way, also how we treat skin. Some people will say, Frank, you're crazy. You have to use Capture One for your Leaf files, you have to use DxO Optics for your Sony files, and they are right. The quality is better. But in the end, will my clients see the difference? No.
No.
They want to have a kick-ass image, and they wanted to have it in 5 minutes.
Of course.
And with DxO Optics, it's a great workflow, especially now with the browser on the left. That really helps a lot in speeding up, because normally I would export my files to TIFFs and then open them up in DxO Optics. Now I can just use the browser. So that speeds it up a little bit, or much, by the way. But in the end, it all boils down. If I have to retouch 60 images and I only have 1 day, every 10 seconds or every 20 seconds I save on an image by doing it in Lightroom just works. If I have one image and I think this is my killer image, I will go to DxO Optics because that really gives me the best image quality.
Of course.
And it doesn't mean that I'm lazy or whatever. It's just
it's time.
Horses.
It boils down to time.
Yeah,
it boils down to time. You know, and that's what I say. Well, that's what I'd like to try to educate and tell people. You know, at DxO, what we're doing with Optics Pro is building the foundation of an image quality. Unfortunately, no other competitor can compete with. You know, so if there's something that you want the most out of your RAW files, I mean, there's only really one RAW converter on the market you want to use on the market, but when it boils down to time, I can completely understand.
Yeah, it's cool. So now I've selected, and what I normally do is I will flag my images. So now I have a few left.
Okay.
And let me start out with this one.
So pretty much what
Frank... I use a light meter.
Yeah, Frank, I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, no problem. Because I use the light meter, I don't go into the develop module. I won't change anything about my exposure or whatever because it's already there. And I think when you really do street photography, what I also do and love, then you do some stuff in your exposure, you do your shadows and highlights, but I meter my stuff, so I don't need that. Now, the fun part is I don't stay in Lightroom because there's one thing I really have to do, and that's retouch the skin. So I will Command E, and I will go into Photoshop. And I will first show you what we do with skin. And this will probably be a shock for some people. So hold on tight. The emergency exits are now officially closed. Don't go away because I will explain what I'm doing. The fun part is, some people will say, you know, you really have to dodge and burn. You have to use the feather of a dragon, the blood of an elf, and that's the only way you can do a good skin retouching, and you have to spend 6 hours on it.
Yeah.
Now tell your client, yeah,
I like to call it.
I
like to call it unicorn tears.
Oh yeah, unicorn tears. Oh, that's even better. Or elf's hair. Well, no, don't even go there. Anyway, so the last time I saw an elf was like really long ago. Anyway, so what you really have to realize is it's all about time is money. And if I retouch, and I can do dodge and burn, I can do a perfect dodge and burn for you guys here, but then you will spend probably the better part of 3, 4, 5, 6 hours here, and then I only done the face, and I still have to do the arms. Now, the fun part is it looks awesome. But if I do this, it actually also looks awesome. And it's an imagenomic portraiture. And after that, by the way, we go into FilmPack, don't worry.
Okay.
What I will do is I will actually go to 100%. I will zoom in on the face. And this is before, it's cool. And this is after. Big difference. Saves lots of time.
Yep.
So I will run it. And at that point, it actually filters out the skin tones. I will select my background layer and do a layer mask, hide all. And now you see a black canvas here. Now black canvas means hide all. As soon as I start using white paint, I will actually just paint the effect in. Of course, Frank, you have to do it on 100%, otherwise it won't work. There we go. So now I've painted the effect in. Now that's fast, right? That saves you a lot of time. Now let's say I want it even faster. What you can do in Photoshop is you can create an action. And I did it. Portrait smooth. What it does, I play. It now actually makes a duplicate layer. It runs portraiture and it gives me a black layer of paint, and it already gives me a brush with white paint. The only thing I have to do is now very quickly go over the skin, and that's it. That's my whole skin retouching. So I'm done. Okay. Now, why do I use FilmPack? Now, this is something that some people will say, like, you're crazy. You do everything with color checkers. You make sure that your color is correct, and then you're going to screw it up with something called DxO FilmPack or any other filter. Okay, guys, listen. In the old days, when we wanted to take a photograph, we took a certain kind of film. Let's say we chose Portra, or Riala, or Astia, or Sensia, or Velvia, or whatever kind of film, Ektachrome, just name them out. There were so many films. Now, why were there so many films? Because you can't shoot a portrait, you can of course, but you can't really shoot a portrait with Velvia. And why not? Well, the first thing is you have 2 stops over, 2 stops under. It's a limited dynamic range, and the colors are way too bright for a portrait. But a landscape, oh my, Velvia, great. Now, Portra, that's great for portraits, but can you shoot a landscape with it? You can, but it doesn't look perfect. So, in the old days, you choose your film type for the look you wanted to have. And then, of course, you did your developing. Now, I do still my own developing. I do C41 and I do E6 all at home. The fun part is, even with color development, and a lot of people don't realize this, you can control the grain. For example, you have your rotations of the tank, and if you do it a little bit differently, you can actually change the grain size. Now, at first I didn't believe this, by the way, until I tried it out and I was like, wow, you can really control this. So you have so many factors you can do. Now throw in the darkroom. You go into the darkroom, you have your negatives or your positives, you put them under the how do you call it, enlarger. You put it on a piece of paper, you put the paper in a trough of stinking water, and the image appears. Yeah, well, not like that, because you can change the contrast by using different chemicals or different combination of chemicals, or you can dodge and burn. There were so many different ways. Now fast forward to digital photography. We have only one film type, and that's the sensor. Now Sony, for example, has a little bit too much blue. Canon has a little bit too much magenta. Nikon has a little bit too yellow. But it's the look of the camera. Now we start using a color checker. All cameras look equal. Is that cool? Yeah, it's cool. But if we produce images like that, we get the same look over and over again. Now when I look at this portrait, it's okay, I can publish this, but is it really something with soul? Yeah, you could say so, it's nice. But now let's see what we can do with DxO FilmPack. And this is where I actually, after the fact, I changed the film roll. And this is something you have to get used to. And some people have very, very much trouble with this because they say, it's destroying your image. I say then the old photographers all destroyed their images as soon as they start using different film rolls, and I don't believe that. So in my custom presets, I actually have some, and you can download part of them. And in this case, I want something a little bit more vintage. So in the end, I actually have something called a vintage portrait. And what you can see is I raised my blacks, and I changed a little bit in the film grain lomography red scale. Hey, I'm Dutch, sorry for it. In the toning, you can choose selenium, or you can choose anything else. For example, why didn't I choose gold? It's way easier to pronounce. Ferric sulfate. Yeah, don't.
So pretty much what Frank's doing, everyone, is that he's building the foundation of using like a traditional, analog film, and then fine-tuning it at his own discretion to his own liking. And you can clearly see, like, Frank's been busy with his presets. He's been creating some really nice, unique looks. All these looks, by the way, are downloadable on our DxO Facebook page, so feel free to pay us a visit there if you're interested in downloading some of the presets that you're going to see today.
Okay. Now for this image, I changed it a little bit. Now one of the tips I can give you, and this is really important, if you do a whole series, make sure you use the same preset over and over again, because you don't want your customer to go like, Frank, this image looks a little bit different from the other one. You choose a look, choose wisely, and then copy that look over all the images. Okay. Now in this case I won't do it. I will say save, or do I do something else? Well, we talked about micro contrast, right? Now look what micro contrast does for the background. If you turn it all the way up, you see what it does to the background?
It brought all really that nice
smooth edge. Yeah, I love that. But let's back this down a little bit. Now, I'm not a big fan of noise, but some people love it, and you can go all the way out like this. But for me, most of the time I will hold noise around 50. It's there, but it's hardly visible.
So what he's what Frank's pretty much doing is he's just pretty much manipulating the film grain to his own liking, because what he's completely working off is that traditional film grain that's provided by that lomography red scale that he's using. And now he's playing around with his. I like that, Frank.
Nah, I don't know. I don't like it that much. I like this a little bit.
This one, yeah.
I'm normally somebody, and I don't like the. I'm just showing these because some people love them. I'm not the kind of person that will use a lot of the textures and the other stuff. It's somehow I'm always in doubt. Like when I see it, it's like, oh, I like it. And then it's, but it's also a little bit fake. The fun part I like about it is randomized. Now, in the past I used some other filters. And at the moment I still use Alien Skin and Nick Google, of course. But I used some other filters and they were great. The problem was at one point they started using presets and you couldn't change anything. So let's say I really like this look of the model, but I didn't like the light leakage. Yeah, how to disconnect the light leakage. Now here we have the intensity slider, so at least I can put it on 0, or I can just say, no, I don't want it in there. Now, the other manufacturer, they didn't put it in. Now, one of the things that if you're going to buy a filter, make sure, like DxO has, that you can change everything in the filter. Because if you're stuck with a frame, or a light leak, or a texture, one day you will grow bored of it. And you love this look, but you don't want the texture in. And that's what I love about DxO FilmPack. It's like crazy, crazy customizable. You can do whatever you want. You can do what Hector just showed, the curves. And a while ago, there were no curves and there were no filters for color. And I talked to Hector and I said, I would love to have curves and filters for colors. And now they're in there. So DxO really listens to you guys. And that's something I find very important.
I mean, Frank, I mean, that's
okay,
what we're all about.
Yeah. So let's close this image and say save. Now the fun part about Lightroom and Photoshop is the interaction between them. It's now already in my library. And I can say to this image, okay, on. Okay, now let's do something with black and white. I really, really like this image, and I think this is a great one for black and white. So I go into Photoshop, and you can see my retouching is really fast. And I don't have time to retouch very slowly for the very simple reason, one, I know what I'm doing, and two, if you retouch slow, you have to charge your client more, and nowadays your client actually doesn't want to pay much more because there's always somebody who want to do it for free. And I don't want to do it for free, but if I charge my client 6 hours of retouching per image, I don't think I will have a lot of work left. Basically. Now, because I'm using light from the side, I actually see a little bit more skin detail. And you see a little bit more problems in the skin. Don't freak out. Take the healing brush. And what I normally do is, normally you are presented with a round healing brush. Now, that's cool. But you can see a lot of the retouching going on. What I do is I always make it an oval. I will press very close to the part I want to take out, and I will very quickly just go over it. There we go.
So obviously we can clearly see that Frank's just completely like manually retouching his image, and then from the type of speed and the accuracy that I'm personally seeing him going at this, you can definitely say that he's working off of some sort of tablet or a stylus to be able to make
No, this is sped up.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I just sped up the video feed.
Okay.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm using a Wacom tablet.
Okay, so he is using a tablet of some sort with a stylus to make all those little pinpoint precision adjustments.
Oops. Ooh. Freaky.
I think she's going to need that.
Yeah, no. Just pretty eyes. Okay, now we go into FilmPack again, and I'm going to do something a little bit more. Oh, by the way, do you want to see a neat trick for hair?
Yeah, do it.
Put up your finger, guys, if you want to see a neat trick for hair. Oh,
everyone, put up your hands. Oh, not that type of weapon.
Wow, no, I already see it. Wow, man, this is a lot. Okay, now there's something called the mother-in-law filter in Photoshop. Not a lot of people know about it. I call it the mother-in-law filter. It's actually content-aware fill. Now, what you can do with content-aware fill is actually take out some stuff. Now, what you normally would do is this. You go into 100% mode. You see some stray hairs. You select it with the lasso tool. You go around the hair, and you say delete, content-aware, and boom, it's done. Man, if I have to do that on everything, that's way too much work. Now, I started doing this. I would go into Quick Mask, take a brush, take a small brush, and I would just go normally. And why doesn't it work now? Ah, one moment. I know why it's not working. It's a little bug in Photoshop. There we go. If you guys sometimes have an unresponsive cursor, and sometimes that happens in Photoshop on a Mac, just press somewhere with your mouse and your Wacom will start working again like magic. So here we go. And I will do it very quick now, because I don't want to take too much time. Normally we do it a little bit nicer, of course. I'm just selecting, quick selection mask, everything that I don't like. And you can even do it with skin retouching. That went bad, Trans. By the way, sorry, that was Dutch. There we go. I'm just showing some examples. And let me see here. I don't like this. I don't like that. Don't like that. That I will do later. Okay, we go back. And let me now show you in full screen. Select inverse. And now you press the delete key. And the fun part is that content-aware fill now solves most of your problems. And this works so incredibly much faster than using the healing brush or whatever, because now the only thing I have to do is go in 100% and check if it's okay. And the final parts that I missed, I will just do with the healing brush very quickly. And this speeds up your workflow with hairs immensely. See here, there was a little bit of discolorment and it's gone. Now this part has a slightly different color, right? What you can do is take a brush, go into the color mode, go on a slightly lighter, and just press here and just paint it in a different color. There we go, and away is the red. So for people who missed that, we have a red spot here. You go into the color mode, you select a skin tone that you like, and you just paint over the discolorment in the skin. And at that point, you get a really nice equal color. And now you can go into your clone tool, very, very low opacity, like 19, 20%, make it a little bit bigger, and just take away the edges. There we go. Okay, now I promised you black and white, so let's go to FilmPack, DxO FilmPack. There we go.
So Frank, do you have a personal preference yourself when it comes to either black or white or color images?
I have to be totally honest with you. I always love black and white, and I end up with color.
Yeah, I hear you.
Because I see it in black and white, and I go like, oh, that's awesome. And then I see it in color, and go like, yeah, that's pretty too. And then I will finally end up with color again.
Color.
Oh, I love this. This is one of my presets, by the way, so I have two of them. This is a slightly less medium strong, I call this, and this is high contrast. And look what it does for the eyes. It really pops out. Now, if you say it's a little bit too much, you can always change the intensity. And again, this is the fun part about the DxO FilmPack. I love the 3200. I don't want the grain, so I will take the grain out. Or in this case, I want to go all overboard. And there we have a lot of grain. Now, one of the things I always tell my students, and that's really cool, is if you have a problem with your image, and you messed it up, let's say the focus is a little bit off, make it black and white and it's instant art. So that's one of the best tips. Add noise, make it a little bit black and white, and you have instant art. And don't tell your client, you just go like, yeah, I know, it's cool, right? It's black and white. I once had a student who didn't want to shoot on RAW. He always shot JPEGs, and in the studio he asked me, Frank, how should I set my color balance? Because if I look at the back of the camera, all my images look wrong. And that's correct, because he was shooting out of white balance, and it will take the white balance of the modeling lights, and those are like 2,800 degrees Kelvin. So reddish. However, the strobe when it goes off is about 5,000 degrees Kelvin, so a lot more blue. So his images look all funky. Now I told him, you know what, best is to shoot RAW and a color checker. No, I don't want to shoot RAW, I want to shoot JPEGs. So okay, then put your camera on 5,000 degrees. So he was looking at the back, he said, this looks great, this is awesome. The next day, and after the workshop, I told him, don't forget to take it back on auto white balance. No, I'm not stupid. The next day I got him on the phone, he said, Frank, I loved your workshop, the images are great, and yeah, I put it back on auto white balance. The next week, he said, Frank, one of your tips saved my life. I said, what was the tip? He said, well, I told you I put it on auto white balance back again, but I actually forgot. And I shot a wedding. We shot under fluorescence, tungsten, outside, tungsten light, inside, tungsten light in a restaurant. He said, and all my images look totally wrong. He said, and I remember that you said, if you mess something up, make it black and white, and don't let your client know. He said, so I made the whole series black and white, and I told my client, yeah, this is the new look, and they loved it. I was going like, so what did you learn? And the fun part was, he said, I'm now going to shoot RAW. But anyway, you can make it black and white, and it looks awesome. And again, just press close, and you're done. Now, let's say I don't want to do skin retouching, and I don't need it. Let's say I have an image, and I think it's okay. I don't need the skin retouching on that image. And let me see which image would be cool for that. I think this one. You can also, of course, go to Photo, edit in DxO FilmPack. Let me take the 4.
There you go.
You see, I've been with them for a long time.
Yep. So
what I do is TIFF. What?
Now I was going to get ready to say, so you would highly always recommend shoot RAW, process out, 16-bit TIFF all day, every day. Is that your main rule and method of shooting, Frank?
Yeah. Okay. I use TIFF, 16 bits, Pro Photo RGB, and some people say that's nuts because you can't see Pro Photo RGB, and they're absolutely right. But it's the biggest color space, and if you have a calibrated workflow, you can actually work in Pro Photo RGB while you never see Pro Photo RGB because it scales it down to Adobe RGB. Now, For internet, you actually use something called sRGB because on the internet everything looks like crap. And sRGB is great for that. Now Adobe RGB is a bigger color space, and that's what most monitors are now if you have a professional monitor. However, if you have the chance to shoot ProPhoto RGB, edit in ProPhoto RGB, store in ProPhoto RGB, you can actually have benefit for it if you use the new printers. Like the new Epsons, they have like the Vivid Magentas, Vivid Cyans, and those printers actually print a little bit outside the Adobe RGB. Now in the future there will be more printers that will go out. I believe HP experimented with a monitor they called the Dream Color monitor, which was actually outside really the Adobe RGB color space. Yeah, I saw it, it was awesome, but I didn't buy it because at that point all the colors looked a little bit funky if you weren't within that Adobe RGB color space. And in the future you will see stuff that is ProPhoto RGB. Now some people will say, Frank, now you're wrong, because I can only set my camera on sRGB or Adobe RGB. Guys, you are absolutely right, but that's for your JPEGs. If you shoot RAW, and I think DxO can confirm this, you're actually shooting outside the Adobe RGB triangle. The color space of your Adobe RGB is actually smaller than what your sensor can capture. So if you really want to benefit and take the most out of your sensor, make sure that you edit in ProPhoto RGB. But make sure you have a calibrated workflow, because otherwise your images will not look correct.
You know,
so for this
Frank,
one, let's say
I'm really happy that you mentioned that, because some people don't seem to realize and understand that the type of work that we're doing in FilmPack, you know, having a system that's completely calibrated is extremely crucial, because you want to make sure that red is red, blue is blue, green is green. And if there's two companies that I'm pretty sure Frank and I would probably highly recommend. Data Colors one, and then you have X-Rite's another. I mean, those two companies do really good things when it comes to creating customized ICC profiles for the devices that Frank and I are discussing, such as his monitor or his camera or his printer. Because at the end of the day, that's what we're looking for. We're looking for that color accuracy. So thanks for mentioning that, Frank.
And what I actually use is X-Rite. I use Data Color a lot, but I switched to X-Rite because I found out that, especially with the Adobe RGB monitors, you actually need a spectrometer. Yep. And X-Rite is the one that's actually delivering the spectrometers.
Yeah, I heard about that too as well.
Yeah, and it really changes a lot. Now, for this final part, I want to have a real funky color. So I'm going to set my center. Oops, there's my center.
Nice.
And I'm going to blur a lot.
So what we're seeing right now is Frank's just gone into the Creative Blur vignetting tool. By selecting the set center point, he's put the main focus attention to his model's face where it should be. I mean, there's no other place where I would personally put it, but where it should be on your model's face. And what he's doing right now is that he's just gradually fine-tuning the intensity, the radius, the transition, all the other advanced sliders to get that really unique soft focus blur, you know, going on.
And ladies and gentlemen, he's almost at the goal, and he's gonna goal.
That's it. And he's almost there, and it's absolutely flattering.
I love the way that you comment on what I do. It's looking like a football game.
Yeah, I mean, it's awesome.
Okay, we're now going to go to the creative vignette, because I want the sides a little bit darker to get that attention to my model. But of course, the center has to be around here, because I don't want this part to be dark. I want this part to be dark. And the transition, I'm going to play a little bit with it. Just pull it down. Now let's make it really dark. There we go. And maybe a little bit up, so that the bottom part is a little bit darker. There we go. I really like this. It's a little bit funky. I love funky. So press save. Normally press save. Oh my, technical support. Oh, apply.
That's what we have a problem.
That helps a lot. I'm very sorry. Of course, you have to press apply.
That helps once in a while. Only once in a while it helps.
Yeah, and then I'm gonna save this one, by the way, by using.
So right now what he's doing is just creating his own custom preset called Funky Green. And I need that in my life. So if Frank was such a good friend of mine, after this webinar, what he would do is he would extract that funky green out of his preset folder, attach it in an email, and send it to his friend Hector all the way over here in the States.
Yeah, if Hector was my friend, I would probably do that.
Nah. So
I'm
that's pretty much a really nifty way. And like I discussed earlier, there's several ways of creating presets in FilmPack, and there's 3 different ways, and you just saw how Frank creates his.
Now the only thing you have to be careful of is, because I didn't flag the image, of course, it doesn't show up at the moment. It should be somewhere, by the way. I think it's now. Uh-oh. That's weird. Should end up somewhere. And this is the part where everything went right, and then at the end, something did went wrong. Let me go.
Murphy's Law. What can, will.
Where's my file? Let's sort on. If you're losing a file, just sort. Ah, there it is. There we go. Now you see that I missed some spots, and at that point I can still go into Photoshop, and in this I will do edit the original, and I'll just remove that one part. And I just wanted to show you guys that you can also do it, and I love the coloring. Look at the noise you see here. That's amazing. I love that.
That's nice.
There we go. Let me do a quick. Let's take that out also. And often, and guys, I really mean this, be careful when you retouch. I see so many people sending me images where they just forget to retouch, and they go like, yeah, they're straight out of the camera, that's good enough. No, it isn't. Now some people say with film you also don't retouch. That's, well, there's a certain truth to it, and the truth is that in film actually the plane of the film was never 100% flat. Meaning that you will already have a certain softness in the skin. It's pin sharp, don't get me wrong. If you shoot medium format files, they're pin and pin sharp. However, the plane of focus isn't 100% sharp as it is with digital, because the sensor is actually incredibly flat. So you have to do something about the skin, because otherwise it's just too bright. Too detailed. And some people actually use something called Vaseline on a very cheap UV filter. Just put some Vaseline on it, put it in front of your camera, and you get this nice diffused highlights. For me, however, I rather do it in post. Well, I think this is a little bit what I wanted to show you guys.
Excellent. Frank, thank you so much for sharing like all your insight, all your knowledge, and just pretty much letting us in your personal space and just letting us see how you do the work. I mean, thank you so much, and I'm pretty sure everyone else who's attending today's webinar is really grateful as well for sharing that. And Frank, can you see the video feed on your end? Is this coming in good?
Yep, it's coming in.
Okay. Yeah, so you definitely want to...
That's the portfolio website. They have to go to home.
Yeah, so you definitely want to go to the home website, and this is the home website. Hold on. Well, this is a part of his site where you can pay a visit just to give everyone a general idea. And if you're also interested in picking up Frank's book, which is a really good book, definitely stop by like your local Barnes and Nobles or at a Barnes and Nobles or anywhere else where you can pick up the book. But this is Frank's new book that just recently came out, Mastering the Model Shoot. Really informative book. There's a tremendous amount of information in it for everyone to gather up. I'm waiting for Frank personally to come down to the States so he can sign mines, because it's waiting for him to be signed off. If you're interested in educating yourself, tapping into our tutorials or any other educational content or training materials that we're posting out, definitely go to our website, DxO.com, and pay our tutorials page a visit, where you can see like all the new educational content that we're posting out. And you know, this gentleman right here kind of looks familiar, which is really weird. But this is where all our training and educational content is posted up on a regular base. And Frank, I don't know how much more time you have with us, but do you mind just hanging out with us for like maybe another 4 or 5 minutes, just to answer
no
like
problem.
any general questions that anyone might have? Excellent.
Of
Okay,
course, no
so
problem at all.
if anyone's interested in asking Frank a question live, go into your chat dialog box. I'm actually going to read off on that question, and we're actually just going to see, you know, what's going on in Frank's world and in his mind. So if you have a question, just feel to type it right in the chat box, and we'll see what's going on. Okay, Frank, if you don't mind me asking, could you just state the code for the special to get your educational content on your website? Just a little, once again.
Workshop 66.
Okay, so that's Workshop 66, and we're typing that to everyone. So that's actually been sent in, and that's Workshop 66. All right, and once again, if you're interested,
and if they don't,
I'm sorry. Go ahead, Frank.
If they have problems with it, just let them email me, and I will set it up for them. No problem at all.
Okay, so Frank, Bart wants to actually know, you know, why film look over the digital look, and I'm pretty sure that's just because you're more of like a traditional type of person. But that's actually a good question. Why would you prefer film over digital, Frank?
I don't. I use a lot of film looks for the very simple reason I just don't like the digital look that much. It's great, you know. I shoot with the Leaf digital backs. It's a 60 megapixel. It's perfect color. It's perfect. But every time I look at those images, I go like, yeah, they're great. They're awesome. And then I start doing some stuff with it, like with DxO FilmPack, and I go like, this really makes the image rock. And you don't have to. It's not that you should. It's just something that I just love the film look. And I'm one of the persons, and I don't know if Hector agree with me, if I shoot Ectochrome, it doesn't look like what's in DxO FilmPack. It's a starting point. And there are a lot of filters out there that will give you starting points. And you have to start working with them and create your own digital look. And I see it as what we did in the darkroom. You never actually developed a film and you said, okay, 6.5 minutes like this, 3.5 minutes like this, 4 minutes like this, and the final 6 minutes, there we go, and we don't do anything else. You, even in the darkroom, you were experimenting with different chemicals to control your contrast. You were doing dots and burns, so it's not something that grew in. However, a lot of people who shoot digital nowadays say, you know, the images come in, they're perfect. No, they're not. It's your starting point. And from there on, you have to do your creativity. And if you like it digital, there's nothing wrong with it. Just keep it digital. But for me, I want to give it a little bit, and I always call it as a joke, a little bit of soul. And that's what I do with the tinting.
Okay. Okay, so just another quick question, Frank. Someone wants to know, Frank, like, every time you're showcasing your images to clients, are you always showcasing images that are retouched, or does sometimes the client prefer to see untouched images?
My client only sees retouched images. I will never ever show untouched images, for the very simple reason it's my work. And I really want my client to see the images in the best possible way, and that's retouched. Now, if I have a client that says, I want a certain look, I will determine the look together with the client. But I will not give away unretouched images. It's the same with photoshoot. Some people will give a whole CD to the model. Here you go, you have the whole CD. That's ridiculous, guys. Come on. You have to do some retouching, because that's the way that people judge you as a photographer. And one more tip about that, by the way. I always have in my contract for the models that they are not allowed to retouch the images themselves. Because recently I did a portfolio review and I looked at one of the images and go like, you know, I really like the light here. I like your pose. It's actually a great image, but the cropping, man, it destroys the image. And she went like, Frank, it's one of your images. And I go like, I never would crop it like this. No, it was a full body and I cropped it myself. At that point, I said to Anna, the first thing we're going to do is we change the contract. Now, don't be an ass. If your model asks you for a crop, do it for her. But at least at that point, you know that you stand behind that crop.
Gotcha. And that's all about building that relationship when it comes to directing and working with your models, and I agree with you. Okay. So another question for Luke. Luke wants to know, hey Frank, if you could choose a paper type for your portfolio or something like that, are you more towards like the luster, the matte finish? I mean, what type of stock do you like working with?
iPad. I love it.
Okay, that answers Luke's question. Okay, so
sorry, Luke.
Frank's not
sorry, Luke. Yeah, I am. A print is the best thing ever. You know, photographs should be seen printed. Now, what I really, really like is premium luster from Epson. It's somewhere in between matte and gloss, and I really like it. And when we have our images on the wall over here, we always use matte glass, so not reflective glass in the frames. Now, one of the things that you should really experiment with, and we're doing that also at the moment, is we have some images in the studio that are printed on brushed aluminium with a white back, and that's awesome if you see that stuff. And we're now working, and I don't know the exact translation, acrylate.
Yeah.
It's like there's a glass plate in front of the picture. It's like 5 centimeters in height. That's awesome. It looks like it's capturing light on your image. So that's how I do it. And when I do a portfolio, it's always premium luster paper from Epson.
Gotcha. Okay, cool, Frank. Okay, Frank, so I have another question from Arturo. He wants to know, hey, Frank, just out of curiosity, what type of light meter you're using. And if I'm not mistaken, I've worked with Frank a couple of times, and if I'm not mistaken, you're using, what, a 758 with the 1-degree spot meter integrated into your system, right, Frank?
758, correct.
Yeah.
758.
So for Arturo,
what I actually...
Frank's using a Sakonica 758. 758. Go ahead, Frank.
Yeah, what I actually do is, we have a little bit of a delay over here, so sorry if you sometimes interact with each other.
Yeah, sorry about that.
The 758, and we put in a special adapter to power the skyports, so I can actually control skyports from a unit in my light meter. And I can make them go harder or softer, and I can trigger them with the unit. But the unit is not officially on the market. It's a black market, top secret project.
Nice.
But I can get you into contact with the guys who are making it. But it has no warranty or whatever. But it works.
Okay, cool. Let's see who else. All right, pretty much that's all the questions, Frank. Frank, I know you're really busy, and I mean, I know there's a tremendous amount of things that you have going on, but what's like the latest thing that maybe, let's say, you're doing out in the UK where your fan base can, like, you know, stay tuned to see what you're doing, or what's the next latest and greatest thing that you're going to be doing, let's say, in like the States or something like that?
Oh man, we have something planned, and it's awesome. We're going to do a whole tour through the UK.
Nice.
And that's going to be in the summer. And we're going to do Photoshop World. We are now planning something in Toronto and area, Canada. And let me see, was that everything that was interesting? I think so. Oh, I forgot something. I will actually be doing something at Hector Studio in May 3rd. I'm going to be in New York.
That's right.
Yeah, you forgot about it, right?
Yeah. I did forget about that.
We almost forgot about it.
Yeah, we really did. Guys, if you're really interested in having like a one-on-one experience with Frank and I in the studio location in New York, definitely tap into Frank's, I would guess they would tap into your workshop page, Frank, where they can...
no, it's at the moment it's only on the main site, so frankdoorhof.com. under tours, and you can see the New York workshop there. I still have to add some images you sent me yesterday from the overlook, because guys, I kid you not, on the roof we're gonna make some killer shots, because that roof access is like awesome. We have some nice models there. We're gonna do some in the studio. I'm gonna give no I'm not holding back. You will get all the secrets about lighting. You will get all the secrets I know about whatever you want to know. It's limited to only 15 people, no more. Meaning you get a real one-on-one experience. And we have a early bird special at the moment for $350. And after about a few weeks, it will go to $425. And knowing what we do in New York, I would really book as fast as possible because these seats will fly away because it's an awesome workshop. It's going to be fun. Hector and me together, man, bring clean pants because you will be laughing your ass off.
Yeah, definitely come and check us out, guys. It's May 3rd once again. Come spend the day in the studio with Frank, and we're literally going to be going through the whole entire thing. I mean, lighting, post-production, how to work and communicate with your models. Like Frank said, it's going to be awesome. Yeah, it really is. So, Frank, once again, on behalf of DxO and all your faithful followers, we want to thank you so much for attending today's webinar.